When you feel you have had it up to here because you mad enough to scream, but you're sad enough to tear, then you're either Marshall Mathers or a Denver Broncos fan because you're now at rock bottom.
Russell Wilson is going to go sack.
The Broncos taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who finally found out Justin Tucker is human.
Kick on the way! Online! Does it have the distance? No!
I thought it was good. I had no reason to believe he was capable of missing. So both teams come in off losses. Ravens now with the same record as the Bengals. They're going to come into this game as favorites. Broncos were the lowest scoring team in football prior to last week. Walked out of Carolina with 10 points. It lowered their average.
Wilson over the head of Jalen Virgil.
I don't know if it's so bad the Ravens could just throw some purple pylons out there and call it good, but it's been pretty brutal for Denver this season. Orange Crush, plug your ears. This is for Baltimore fans who don't know. Here are the scores of all but one of Denver's losses. 22-10, 22-16, 17-10, 16-9, 19-16, 12-9, 17-16. What is that? They're like a bad volleyball team.
You can see Brian Burns kind of smacking that hand just before it starts to move forward.
Poster child of Denver's woes, the guy who has more bathrooms in his house than TD's throne. No need going over Russell Wilson's season numbers. It's the holidays. I'm not trying to overly depress the die-hard Broncos fans who still listen or watch for fun. Just know Wilson's 2022 nightmare got worse in Week 12, loses to Sam Darnold, no offense, while putting up 142 yards and just 4.1 yards per attempt.
The ball hung in the air, and quickly closing was Xavier Woods.
What about the Baltimore secondary he faces this week? They got eaten up by Trevor Lawrence, allowed him to look like he did in college. Over 320 yards allowed, 3 TDs, no INTs, a rating given up near 130. Only reason Tucker is kicking from 67 is because the secondary couldn't stop Lawrence from shredding them when the game was on the line. The late TD and the two-pointer.
There's your number 1 pick in the draft last year, Trevor Lawrence.
Now, to be fair, some of those throws and catches, magnifique. Like, what can you do as a defender but tip your cap to some of those dots? Ravens are not usually that bad against the pass, but they aren't elite either. They'd still have the advantage on this front if they play to their 2022 levels.
Throws to Chase. It's an interception for Patrick Queen.
Lamar Jackson and company would seem to have less pressure to pile up major points. Interesting matchup along the ground. The Ravens hit some big pass plays versus Jacksonville, but their rush game kept them in it. 35 carries total, mixed results. What makes it interesting, Gus Edwards comes in cold. He scored, but only 52 yards, 3.3 a run.
Hand off to Edwards, and going nowhere.
Broncos defense against running backs sits at 4.7 yards per carry allowed after giving up 113 yards to Deontay Foreman on 4.7 a scamper. Lamar Jackson, he's obviously the gas to their engine. He went for 89 yards, over 6 a run last week.
And Lamar all the way down to the 12-yard line.
Broncos versus quarterbacks on the ground. Just 3.8 yards per carry allowed. Impressive. Unless you want to factor in which dual-threat quarterbacks they've faced. Because then, it's like, who cares about that stat? This is their first test versus someone with Lamar's skill set. What Baltimore does not want to have to do is try to beat Denver through the air. Broncos only faced 19 pass attempts last week, so the 164 yards and touchdown allowed to Darnold don't tell much, other than Carolina knew the best way to beat them on that side of things was to run. The Broncos' pass defense wasn't perfect in Week 12. They gave up a long one to DJ Moore, but they remain one of the hardest secondaries to pass on.
Surtain knocked it away from Terrence Marshall.
They square off with a Lamar that came up big with his arm late in that loss. He threw for over 250 yards, a touchdown, no picks.
Lamar, play action. He's got a wide open man. Oliver, touchdown!
Broncos have to be ready to defend the tight end position more so than others. Josh Oliver scored last week, led the Ravens in yards with 76.
He's got a man down there. It's Oliver into Jacksonville territory.
Mark Andrews led the team in targets with 7.
When you need a big play, they go to Mark Andrews.
Broncos versus tight ends then? Not as good as their overall play versus the pass, but holding that position to an 88.7 rate, so pretty good. Broncos running back Latavius Murray had a nice week 12, 92 yards, 7.1 a run, broke a 52-yarder.
Latavius Murray just whoop.
Will he be able to do anything like that versus Baltimore? They're only allowing backs 4 a carry. All right, let's see what you have to say about this game. Load up the comments section with all the points I didn't include, but make sure to include your prediction like these ones.